Hey guys, welcome to my first video on smithing, melting, and refinery. This is going to be the first video of a full series. I hope that you like it. I'm going to be showing different techniques, different ways of doing it, ways that you can do it, a whole different thing.
Stop worrying about things I can't control. Stop worrying about dollars I don't know. Stop worrying about the things I cannot know. And sometimes it feels so good. Oh.
So the first and easiest way to make simple molds and casts with metal is that we use a foam method, of which you take something that you want to cast or mold and you put that into sand, and whenever you get your molten metal, you can pour it in and it will take the negative space that you take out of the foam. So I have right in there my logo for the channel, and you can do really anything. Just make sure it's not too intricate or really tiny, because of water tension and fluid tension will make it so it can't fill all the spaces. You should use a little bit finer sand for casting. You don't want to use really coarse stuff. You can use play sand, or if you really want to get some fine detail on it, you can use fish tank sand. But what you want to do is that you want to make almost like a crater around it, so that whenever you pour the fluid, it goes down only in here. So what I'm going to be using as my metal is some bits and pieces of tin and aluminum, and I'm going to be making that alloy. I find that it flows well. You can add a little bit of lead. Of course, there's always the impurity of lead in there, which is hard to get out if you want to reuse the material. But the lead does help to make it so that you can have it heavier and more dense to fill in all the spaces. And I'm just going to be putting that right on the fire there, and I'll come back to it later. Okay, so if the fire isn't hot enough immediately, of course you can fan it, make it hotter, use some not very dense wood, because that takes longer to burn. You want to get a really fast exothermic reaction to get everything melted. You can actually see it's a little bit melted there, and since I'm using a few, you just want to add a little bit of this to keep it going. You can see it fizzling there, and that will make sure it can flow well and it binds fully. Yeah, so I'll keep on fanning it and see whenever it's done. Alrighty, now that it's all melted and all good, and you can see that it's all mixed up and all melted, just gonna bring it over and pour it gently in. You see it melts all that. You can see all the extra slag up top, and I'll pull that out in about 10 minutes and see what we got. Alright guys, this is my what I pulled out of the sand. As you can see, the J formed very nicely, but the K, one part of the K didn't fully form, so that's a kind of a bummer. There's always a way to fix that, but as you can see, it's pretty heavy, but it's also pretty detailed. You can see the little scuff marks from the sand and all the different divots, which I think gives it a cool look. But I'll later show you different ways to make sure it gives a clean and polished look. Yeah, so this is I'm just gonna buff it up and polish it with some sandpaper and a file, and cut it a little bit with these bigger chunks, and I'll see what I have. So I'll be right back and I'll show you the finished project.
Stop worrying about things I can't control. Stop worrying about dollars I don't know. Stop worrying about the things I cannot know. And sometimes it feels so good. Money don't matter if it feels for you. Money don't matter if you're hard. Money don't matter if it feels for you. I used to worry every day, now I got better things. Stop hurrying, slow down and take control. Stop worrying about your problems, you should know. Stop feeling like my life is such a mess, because the world's got me in it. It's my time and I should live it.
Well, there you go, guys. There's the completed mold. I added on the extra little part that didn't fully cast in the first time, and it looks great. I could always just polish it up some more. It does have a little bit of rough spots, but it looks pretty good for a very simple sand mold. In a future video, I'll be showing you how to do plaster of Paris, just a multitude of different ways that are much more refined and simple. But if you really wanna, if you really want to cast something real quick, do a fun little thing, I mean, there are definitely easier, faster, and more intricate ways of doing this, but for it being wintertime and so wet, there are some pockets that formed, and that just made the metal kind of hard to work with, and there are some bumps up here. But you can try around with a few different foams. I mean, I find the larger bead foam is better to work with. You do get, it does fill in more of the spots, and it melts really easily, but it is also really hard to cut shapes out of it, and it sort of like beads off. But if you have like a styrofoam cutter, anything that really really cuts styrofoam with a clean cut, you can really almost cast anything that is larger than a drop. So yeah,